So in the past, I've done a workshop that I called very, very basic jQuery. And I think I've done that at least twice, maybe 3 times. And Ed used my notes for that presentation or workshop at this conference last year when it was all online. I thought that was the presentation. I thought that was the workshop I was doing today. I thought I was doing very, very basic SQL tomorrow. So consequently, as of 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I hadn't really prepared for doing very, very basic SQL. So the first thing I'm going to do is I put a link to to a web page that I set up in the chat box. And I know the people in the room aren't going to have that, but I put it in the chat box so anybody that's in the room can, like maybe Ed, can get up and put that somewhere where the people that are in the room can find it. And if I've been...
Can we also put the Zoom room ID and password in the chat so the folks in the room that want to join the Zoom room, can do that?
I'll do that. The bit.ly link there is also for the Zoom room, so that might be easier for people to just copy over. But I'll put the meeting ID and the password in there, and I'll make a bit.ly link for George's stuff here too.
That'd be awesome, Jason. I was just opening up bit.ly myself. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I'll give everybody in the room a minute or so to have that. So yeah, that's I write a lot of SQL, and we've done a lot of SQL and Koha reports presentations at this conference in the past. And usually it'll be easy, they'll have a title like Easy SQL or Learn More About SQL or something like that. And in the conference evaluations, I've been part of the conference committee for like the last 4 years, I think. And what always happens in the conference evaluations is half of the people that go to Easy SQL say, it was too easy. It was a waste of my time. I already knew all that. And then the other half of the people say, that went way over my head, way fast. And so there never seems to be a capture in the middle ground. So I'm going to tell everybody right now that I'm making this as easy and as bare bones and as absolutely simple as you can imagine. So anybody that says this went, that this was too simple, I'm warning you right now that this is too simple for you. If you're afraid that it might be too simple, I'm guaranteeing you that it's going to be too simple. So let me share my screen. And I want to share screen number 1. So you guys should see, it should say very, very basic SQL for Koha reports. Is that what you guys can see? All right. And I'm going to move my camera closer to that screen so I don't feel like all you're seeing is the side of my head all day. Okay, so I've got, I'm gonna walk through this like I did with very, very basic jQuery, where I'm kind of gonna ask and answer a series of questions that I think that people that don't know a lot about SQL are gonna have. And the first one I'm gonna start with is, what does SQL stand for? That's how basic this is gonna get. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. And one way of thinking about this that I think librarians will understand is that it's a controlled vocabulary for asking questions to the database. It's an analogy that I write down here is, this is like SQL is the language you use when you're asking the database a reference question. And so what does SQL have to do with Koha? Let me flip over here to, I'm on the koha-US demo site right now. And what SQL has to do with Koha is over here in reports. All of these reports that you see here, in any reports that are created using the guided report wizard, those are all SQL reports. If we click on create from SQL, that's what we're doing here. We're saying, like, we're going to call this test report. And anything we put in this box here that says SQL has to be in the SQL language. So it's a way of writing reports to ask the database questions. Let me go back to the reports page. If we click on use saved reports and look at any of these reports that are in here, and Christopher and I and some other people have been, some of the people in the demo interest group have been putting reports in here for our SIG meetings, and Christopher and I have been using this for the videos that we're doing. So if we look at any of these reports and go over here and click on show or edit, we're going to see a bunch of SQL in here that that's in that language. So a question you might be asking now is, what can you do with a custom report that you can't do with one of the built-in reports? The built-in reports that you can create, like say with the guided report wizard, if you choose something from the drop-down like patrons, and we're going to do a tabular report because I think that's the only option that works. It'll give you a choice. You know, you can get any of this data out of the borrowers table in the database, and that's it. You know, we can get borrower number, card number. Let's say we want card number, surname. And then we've got some choices we can limit on home library or patron category. And we don't want to sum any of those. And we don't want to change the order. And what that wizard is doing is it's creating a report in SQL from following through those steps. I never use this because honestly, you know, when you choose one of those categories at the beginning, like borrowers, you're limiting yourself to only the borrowers table. All of these built-in the guided reports wizard, it's harder to join a whole bunch of other tables. I didn't put a link in this HTML document to the Koha schema. But if we go to the Koha community, and we'll just look at 2105, and we want to show all the tables. These are all the tables. There are 219 tables in Koha that we have access to that we can run reports on. And that guided reports wizard is only letting you create a report based on 3 or 4 of those different tables. Many of these tables, there's no way to create a report using many of these tables through the guided reports wizard. So that's one advantage of learning how to write some SQL, is that it gives you more flexibility. It gives you more control over the data that you're getting out of Koha. Another link that I should have put in here that I didn't think of, there is a Koha reports library. I just looked up Koha Wiki SQL. There are a whole ton of reports that already exist that have been created by people at libraries that you can go to the Koha community wiki and just download and plug in and use on your system. There are a lot of reports out there that exist already. So that's the advantage of using custom reports and using the, we were at guided reports, but creating a report from SQL and then using a saved report that's already written. You can create reports that give you more control over the data that you're getting as a result of the report than you can with the guided reports wizard or the built-in reports. The built-in reports, patrons with the most checkouts, most circulated items. You can run reports like this, and there is an interface here, but generally, I've found over time that if I know what I'm doing, I can write a better report. So I do have some links in here. How do I learn about writing SQL? If you click on this link, you'll go to W3 Schools. W3 Schools can offer you a certificate if you go through their whole tutorial and send them like $50. Take a quiz at the end and send them $50. They'll give you a certificate. But you can do all this stuff without paying the $50. And I use the references for SQL keywords and functions and examples all the time from W3 Schools when I don't remember how to do something. So it's a good place to learn. There's also another one at Tutorials Point, Learn SQL. And I've looked at it a little bit and it's good too. And these are both free. If your library has LinkedIn Learning, what used to be lynda.com, there is a LinkedIn Learning course called SQL for non-programmers. So these are all good resources to get you started. And I also put in a link here to a cheat sheet that I use from time to time. And it has just a lot of the basic commands in a sheet that you can print out and keep on your desk. koha-US Education Committee, we have been working on a cheat sheet just for Koha because there are some things that you can't do in Koha that you can do in other versions of SQL. And that's because, that's why I have this special note here. The custom report interface in Koha is designed only to read data from Koha. If you have a back-end access to your SQL database, you can run some commands in the back end that you cannot run in the web interface. And those include update, delete, drop, insert, show, and create. If you try to use the web interface to update a table, Koha won't let you. There's actually a filter built into the web template that if you even use the word update or delete in SQL, like if you're trying to give a table name as an alias for the word update or delete, Koha won't let you because it sees those and it says this is a dangerous word and we're not going to let anybody use that word in a report, even if it's not being used as a command. If it's just being used as a description, Koha won't let you use those words because it's part of the filtering in the template to keep you from accidentally deleting all of your data. It's a safeguard. The database isn't supposed to accept those commands from the web interface, but the web interface has this special fail-safe in there to not even let you use those words. So if you do look at something like this cheat sheet, you might see update, delete, drop, insert, show, or create. Koha isn't going to let you use any of those words. So that's why we've been trying to build a custom cheat sheet just for Koha. So let me get down here to the most basic report possible. Every report you do in the Koha reports module is going to start with the word select. And if we go back to that reference analogy, select is essentially saying, what is the information? And in this very simple report here, I've got select asterisk from table name. This isn't a real report in Koha, but those are the basics of an SQL report. You're going to say select. The asterisk is a wildcard. And then you're going to have a table name in there. You're going to say from this table, I want to select, and the asterisk means everything. So if we run this report in Koha, and I've got this set up as a sample. So the report that I'm actually going to run in Koha is select everything from items. And this is going to get me in our test database. We've got 6,942 items. And this is showing me everything about everything in that table. Item number, biblio number, biblio item number, barcode, everything in that table is being dumped into this report. So that is the most basic a report that it can get, that a report can get in Koha, is we're saying just dump everything from that table onto the screen, which is not particularly helpful, but it is a report. And we can make a report slightly more complex. You know, this is all so much stuff on the screen that it's useless. What we can do to narrow this down is, instead of a wildcard, we can say select certain fields from a table, so that we'll have fewer of these columns. And essentially, to carry that analogy over, what we're saying is, what is the information in these fields in this table? And so let me run that as a sample. And I'm doing most of these samples on the items table. So I'm selecting item number, biblio number, and barcode from items. It's still going to be not a very useful report, but it's not as wide. So this is actually, you know, you could actually do something maybe with this report. It's just essentially a list of every item with its barcode in our current demo site. So by specifying individual fields, that's adding that we're narrowing down data. We can add some other constraints though. And adding constraints, we're going to say, we're going to do the same report, but at the end, we're going to use the word where. And where is going to give us the ability to say, only show me the rows that match a certain thing. And so the sample report that I've got here is just show me item number, biblio number, and barcode number from the items table where items.item number equals 1. And so item number 1 has a barcode of 5150 because I was listening to Van Halen when I created a barcode number for that item. So equals, in this case, in this report, I'm going to show the SQL code for this. Equals is an exact match. And exact matches can be done based on numeric value. If it's a numeric value, you can just say equals 1. If you're looking for a string value, like if you're looking for numbers, you don't have to put it in quotes. If you have anything that has letters in it, you're going to want to use quotes, because letters and numbers in a SQL database are going to be treated differently. So there are constraints besides equals. Equals is an exact match. We can also use the less than symbol, greater than, less than, equal, or equals is a less than and an equals next to each other. Greater than is a greater than and an equals next to each other. And does not equal, we can use a greater than and less than together, or we can use an exclamation equals. Those both mean does not equal. And then we can also use between. So some samples that I've got here. And this is sample number 4. So this one I said, show me all of the results where the item number is less than 100. This should give us about 100 results. So this report was just saying, show me all the item numbers that are less than 100, and that's what we've got. The highest one on here is 99. I think if we do number 5, that one is greater than. There's more results here because we've got, 6,900 items. And so this one starts at 101 and it just keeps going up. And this one is greater than or equals 100. So we should have those 99 that we had in less than 100. Plus we've got 100 here because that equals. Number 6. And then here we've got 100 plus all the numbers above it. Sample number 8. This is the one where I said in this this report, we're saying show us all the results where the item number is both less than and greater than 100. So this one should exclude number 100, and it does, 99, 101. And this is the one that I usually use when I'm doing, when I want a result that's not equal to a specific thing, because I know for sure that this works in Koha. In the other one that does not equals is an exclamation and an equals, and that one does work in Koha, but it doesn't work in some other SQL databases. And so I learned this one as opposed to this one. And so almost all the reports that I write when I'm doing not equals, I use this greater than, less than. And then between is an interesting one, and that's report sample number 10. So this one I said, show me all the results where the result is between 100 and 150. And so that's what I've got here is 100 through 150. Between can be particularly useful with dates. And I'm not even going to talk about dates today because they're complicated. And this is very, very basic. So that we've been going for a few minutes. Let me stop and check the chat box and see if anybody has any questions, or ask if anybody in the room has any questions. And Bruce says, between is inclusive by definition. Yes. One of the things that, I just mentioned that between is really useful with dates, but with Koha, dates can be tricky because some dates are stored as year, month, day, and those are listed as dates, and some are stored as timestamps, which is year, month, day, hours, minutes, and seconds. And so between if the field is a timestamp and you do between October 1st and October 31st, and the dates are listed as timestamps, then you end up with a problem with October 31st. And if I ever do very basic SQL, which was be the logical follow-up to very, very basic SQL, I'll cover dates. So, and I'm noticing some other questions here. Wally asks, I noticed some lines are indented. Is there a specific amount of space that is required? The answer to that is that no spaces are required. If I rewrite this all on one line, and update that, it'll work just as well with all of it'll work exactly the same if it's all on one line. I try to format everything because I try to format everything with indents because I have been at Neckles since 2016, and the person that at least one of the people that I replaced never indented anything. And so I've got these reports that are like one line that's like 50 feet long if it was on a piece of paper. And it is impossible if you didn't write that to know what it's doing. So I always do the formatting I do is the keywords are hard to the left. The individual fields I put on separate lines, indented 2 spaces, and anything that falls under there, I indent 2 spaces generally. But I've got, let me log into my system. One of the problems that I discovered coming into a job where this koha had been running for 8 years before I got here. When I took over this job 5 years ago, we had over, it was like over 1,500 reports in our system. And nobody knew what any of them did because the way that it worked is somebody would phone up and say, I need a report that does A, B, and C. And somebody would write a report that does A, B, and C, and they wouldn't put a name on it. They wouldn't put any notes on it. The name would be like report for Jim. And then a week later, somebody would call and they would talk to a different person and they would say, I need a report that does A, B, and C, exactly the same thing we already had a report for, but nobody could find it because they hadn't been noted or named. And so we ended up with all of these reports that all did the same thing, but nobody knew what they were. And so we're down to only 700 reports now, but this is one report that somebody wrote. This one isn't too bad. It's only on a piece of paper that'd be like 12 inches. I have so many reports that it takes a second, or it takes a minute or two to load the page sometimes. But I've got some that are crazy. I'm getting off track because it's fun to talk about. It's fun to complain about people at your place. Even 5 years later, it's fun to talk about that. So can timestamp be truncated to 8 digits? Yes, you can truncate the timestamps. I have some tricks that I do to deal with timestamps. And Rebecca says, yay for tabs. And Daniel says, sounds like the stuff of nightmares. Yeah, I lost a lot of sleep over things like that. Christopher is asking, is it possible to add comments? And yes, in a report, if you start a line with a slash and an asterisk, you can put a comment in there, and you start the line with a slash and an asterisk, and you end the line with a slash and an asterisk. And this report will still run the same way. You just don't see anything that's on a commented line is in a result, is not in the result. But let me get back on track here. So another thing that you can do with the constraints, so we did where, and I showed you a bunch of different options to use with where. You can also use constraint is not, which is very similar to using the equals, the not equals. So instead of up here, we've got item biblio barcode from items where item dot item number is between. We can also do where something is not. You can do where not, and this is sample number 11. So let me run this. We'll close some of these other reports. So I did where the result is not 100, and this is going to be, in this case, it's going to be exactly like doing not equals 100. So I've got all the results except for result number with the item number 100, because I said everything where not like 100. And you could just as easily with this do where not and then greater than 100 or less than 100, or you know, you can use not to do a lot of different things. So far we've worked with one constraint. We can stack constraints. So we can use and or to say where the field name where one field name equals X and a different field name equals Y. Or we can say where this field name, this field is X and this field is Y, or this field is Y. So we can do ors. And we can even use the not in here where we can say where field 1 is not X, is X, and field 2 and not field 2 equals Y. And we can also use or not. And some of these reports, some of these samples are going to get us no results. So this one is where the item number equals 100 and the biblio number equals 50. That's not the result I expected. What did I do? Oh, it's where the, it's because it's where not. So this is my not example. So I got ahead of myself and I skipped a sample. So this report is saying items, item number, biblio number, barcode from items where not items equals 100, item number equals 100, and items biblio number equals 50. So the thing about not is that it's saying the where not applies to the first, and the and applies to the second. So this is where not equals, probably a better way to explain how this looks if you're a math person is what we've got going on here, where the items number is not 100 and the biblio number equals 50. So these are two separate constraints. So that was sample 12. We've got sample 13. And this one is saying where items number is not 100 or biblio number equals 50. So this one is saying, show me everything where the items number is not 100, and show me everything where the biblio number equals 50. So this is going to have everything except item number 100, essentially. And here I'm putting the not after, here I'm doing two nots, essentially. And this is number 14. So we're saying everything where item number is not 100 and biblio number is not 50. So if we go down here, we're not going to see item number 100. And if we look for biblio number 50, we're not going to see it. And sample number 15, we're saying where items number is not 50 or is not 100. So I skipped right over that. So here we're going to get both results because we're using an OR. Because this, every item meets these two conditions. So we're saying it's not equal to 100, or it's item number is not equal to 100, or biblio number is not equal to 50. That's going to cover every item in this set. So let me look back over here and see, can constraints, so let's see, Christopher asked, is it possible, okay, I answered the comments to SQL. So probably getting ahead of myself, but do you know of any Koha database schemes that conflict when joined? That is a little ahead of this, because I'm going to end this discussion with joins. Wally is saying, can constraints use contains X? And yes, there is a way to do that, but I wasn't going to cover that today because it's slightly more advanced than I was shooting for here. And Christopher says parentheses are helpful when using conditions or in combination with other conditions. I completely agree with that, when I write reports, especially when they start getting complex, I try to put all the conditions in, parenthesize all of them to make sure that they do exactly what I want to do. And at this point, I was going to talk about these samples are just examples. You know, all of the several examples are using constraints on two separate fields, but you can use constraints on the same fields. You can do all kinds of different things with them. You can mix them up. You don't have to always use equals. You don't have to use the same. You don't have to use the same constraints all the time. Number 16. This is saying where items number is not 100 or items number equals 50. We already did that one. Oh, no, we didn't. We did one where it was item number, one of these was item number, the other one was biblio. So, you know, you don't have to, these can be the same field. The things in the where clause can be the same field. You can say, show me this where the item number is 100 and the item number is 50. You know, you can look for more than one thing in the same field. And report number, sample number 17. We're looking at everything where the item number equals 100 or is greater than 500. Or where the item number is not 100 or the item number is not greater than 500. Or I'm getting that backwards, is not less than 500. So this essentially, again, is showing us everything because the constraints don't match right. The next thing, then, Christopher answered a question for Wally, but let's go on to, we can put the results in a specific order. So we've talked about select, we've talked about from, and we've talked about where. And next we'll throw in order by. So this report, we're ordering the results. We're going to sort these by item barcode number. Since most of these items don't have a barcode number, we're going to see a lot of blank spaces there because blank in order comes before everything else. But this is putting all the results in barcode number order. And the results for this report are going to be pretty much everything. And by default, sorting a report is going to be from in ascending order, from smallest to largest. So if you do order by items barcode and order by items barcode ASC for ascending, those are the exact same thing because ascending is the default. The other option is to order the results descending. So if we add order by items barcode to DESC, and then run this report again, we're going to get the biggest numbers first down to the smallest. And you can mix those up. So let's jump ahead to sample number 21. And in this report, I've switched over from the items table to the biblio table. So this is showing us 200 items. And we're looking at biblio number, author, and title, where the biblio number is less than 200. And we're going to sort by author descending, so Z to A. And we're going to do title A to Z. And you can switch those up. You can sort by as many things as you've got in the table. What you can even, well, that's advanced. I won't talk about that. That's very basic, not very, very basic. So a pretty common thing that we do in Koha is we count things. So we've talked right now about selecting data. Let's move on to counting data. And so to go back to that, question idea that these are reference questions being asked in the database, select count asterisk from biblio. That question to the database is going to be, what is the result if I count all of the rows in this table? And this is sample number 22. Which isn't loading. There we go. So this is saying that we've got 5,826 biblios in the demo site, essentially. They're counting every row in biblio. There are 5,826 rows. So sample number 23, I seem to be having trouble getting these pages to load back up. There we go. There we go, sample number 23. So it looks like the demo site is running a little slow because these are not hard reports. They should be running pretty quickly. There is a question here. Is it possible to create a report where some item field is not blank? Yes, there is a constraint for that where you do where the field name is not null. And that's the actual language is not null. That's true most of the time. There are some cases where in Koha where it looks like the field is null, but there's actually data there. And so the other way to look for that is equals double quotes and with nothing in the quotes. That's another way to do a variation on is not null. But this count here, what we're doing is we're, in this next one, we're grouping. So we're counting all of the rows in the biblio table, and we're also going to include the biblio author, and we're going to group by biblio author. And so what that's going to give us is a report where there are, we've got Keith R. Albo. There are 2 rows in biblios where Keith R. Albo is the author. There are 2,550 rows where the author is blank. And so we could actually do, to answer maybe Victoria's question, let me go and edit this report. And add where biblio author is not null. So in that first one, there were like 2,500 authors' names where there was no author name. And so if we run this, we should get a result where we don't see those rows where the author name is blank. So does that answer your question, Victoria? Yes, thank you so much. Perfect. So we're closing up. It's been 50 minutes, which is about, for writing this, yesterday afternoon and last night, I timed it pretty well. The last thing I'm going to talk about is joining tables. So far, every sample I've shown you is just data coming from one table, which is not particularly helpful when you want to get data out of Koha. So there are different types of joins you can do. And this is where you're saying, we've got an example here is we've got data in the biblio table and data in the item table. So how do we connect biblio and items? And in Koha, the way we do that is with the biblio number, because every item record has the biblio number in it, and every biblio record has the biblio number in it. It'd be foolish not to have that in the biblio table. So sample number 24, it's saying, show me the author and the title from biblio and the barcode number from items. So, and it's saying do this from the biblio table and join items where items biblio number equals biblio number. And so this is sample number 24. And so this is going to give us every barcode number. So it's getting the author and the title from the biblio table, and it's getting the barcode number from the item table. And many of these, like I said, do not have, if we get down further here, we got a whole bunch of things that don't have any item numbers. A lot of the data in the demo site, Christopher and I needed some data really quickly, so I uploaded a whole bunch of records from our system. But I think Elaine did the bulk of this work, and I think she got a whole bunch of data from her system, if I remember correctly. I've been hit and miss at the demo special interest group, so I'm not 100% sure who's doing what, and I'm particularly not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. So there are different ways of joining tables. The way that you're going to see most common in Koha are going to be join and left join. So join and inner join are the exact same thing. By default, anytime you use the word join, it's an inner join. And I actually have, let me find, what's in this window over here. There's a good, W3 Schools has a really good set of Venn diagrams of how joins work. So an inner join is this one here, where we've got table 1 and table 2, and the only data the report is going to give us are where those two tables intersect. A left join is where we've got table 1 and table 2, and it's going to show us everything in table 1 plus everything from table 2 where they match. And a right join is just the opposite, which is why you never see it. Because you can turn a right join into a left join just by changing the order of the or around the equal sign. And a full outer join is something I have never done. It's possible to do it in Koha, but it's going to show you everything in table 1 and everything in table 2. And I have no idea. I remember doing it once for a report when I was at Valnet, and I don't remember why I did it or why it was useful. But it is possible to do in Koha. And so I've got actually 2 samples here to show some differences. So this is a left join where we're going to get branches, branch code, and we're going to count items, item number, and we're going to connect items, left join branches on branches, branch code equals item branch code. So everything where branches branch code, everything from branches branch code, and only items branch code where they, actually it's everything from items and only the things from branches where they match. So this gives us our branch codes and how many items they have. The thing is that we have more branch codes than just these 5. So I've got the next report written to show us what happens if we go the other direction. We actually have 7 branches. And so this report is saying, show me all of the information from branches and all of the information from items where it matches. So this gives us everything where there's a branch code, but it's only showing us the item count where it's showing us the item count where there's a result. And it's also showing us the branch code where the result is 0. So that's the 2 differences here, is we're getting the branch codes in this one, but we're only getting the item number counts where it's greater than 0. So Jason is asking a question, is the default join value left join? Actually, the default join value is this one, inner join. So if you just do join, you're only going to get the results where there's, like in items and branches where we're joining on the branch code, we're only going to get a result with a join where there's a branch code and an item that both have the same branch code. In a left join, you say this table, if we do branches first and items second, then we're going to see the list of all the branches, but we're only going to see the results from items where there's a branch code that matches. But if there isn't a branch code that matches, we're still going to see the data in the left column, but not in the right. And Margaret is saying, thank you, George. I have to step away to the library now. It's 9:58, and this is exactly where I wanted to end. And like I said, this was very basic SQL, and I don't know if I could have gotten any more basic. Hopefully this didn't go too fast for anybody. And hopefully, because I said at the beginning that it was going to be very basic, we won't get a lot of comments in the survey saying that was too basic. So does anybody have any questions? Wally says that was perfect. So be sure to put that in the in the evaluation.